Okay, guys, we are here again. Another episode of Peace, Knowledge, and Wisdom. The YouTube channel show that allows us to take a look at the Black experience in America, along with the Black experience in the Ohio Valley. And today I'm here with an Ohio Valley resident, lived in Steubenville for practically his entire life. And we're going to talk a little bit about how it was for him growing up in Steubenville, but we're also going to get into his athletic career of playing for Steubenville, then going off and playing college ball, and find a little bit about what it was like being a Big Red football player and then going on to Delaware State University, correct? And none other than Mr. Steve Wilson, who's also a guy who serves this community well. He serves on a couple boards in Jefferson County. And he's going to just give us a nice little snapshot into his life and into his athletic career and bring up a lot of different topics that we'll discuss here. Steve, how you doing today?
Fine, doing well.
Doing well, that's a good thing. We're experiencing the COVID-19.
Staying safe, as they say.
That's right, staying healthy and safe. And so you see me trying to keep our distance just to go along with some of the guidelines that we're experiencing nowadays. Mm-hmm. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a dive back into your life, right?
All right.
And you're going to be as open as you can with us about what you went through in Steubenville. And,
sure.
And give those who are watching some education on what on our history here in Steubenville. So I'm going to throw out the first question is going to be like I normally do, is just give us a snapshot into how it was growing up, where you lived at in Steubenville, what the area was like, and give us some context of what you went through growing up in Steubenville.
Okay, I'd like to piggyback on the previous interview you had with Mr. Rita.
Yes, Mr. Tony Rita, correct.
And because we both were North Enders.
Okay.
And several things, we have about 4 years between us, so I saw it after they laid so-called the groundwork, and these were his friends he mentioned.
Yes.
They were guys I looked up because we were the younger guys that looked at those guys.
I see.
One of the men he mentioned gave me my nickname.
Okay, who was that?
Levi Davis, the man Levi Davis that was a basketball player, and he said, he almost made the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Well, he came back from college. I'm probably 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And those older guys, you know how they like to mess with the younger guys.
Oh yeah.
Sherman Avenue was the meeting place, Eddie Gillison's.
Okay.
And his brothers and I ran together.
Okay.
And the Wise family, Michael, Freddie, Richard, Scott, Henry, and Gino. We were all Sherman kids.
Sherman Avenue.
Anyway, Levi, I was the Fat Albert guy of the group.
Yeah.
And he, for some reason, he gave me my nickname, which was Meat Motley. Everybody calls me Meat, short. And to this day, some from the streets, some people, they don't know Steve Wilson. They just know, that's Meat.
Okay.
My college teammate, friends, and all that.
How did he give you that? What was that?
It was a DJ personality when he went to Florida down in Edward Waters College. Not too many people even heard of it.
Okay.
Edward Waters.
Okay.
And anyway, when Mr. Tony was talking, he lived from the tracks above. I lived from the tracks below.
Okay. So you're saying tracks below, you mean so he lived up on the 7th Street side of the track. He lived on the 6th Street side of the track.
Friends and, we played in, the typical. And the North End Field was always the collective place where everybody went.
Right.
Baseball in the summertime and basketball on the court, horseshoes.
Let me ask you something real quick.
Those types of things.
I'm going to interrupt you every now and then.
Okay.
There's going to be some relevance to.
Yeah.
I don't know how familiar you are with. I'm sure you're familiar with all the different situations that has happened through the years, but the recent situation with this miracle field they're talking about putting down in the North End Field. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Just a little.
Okay, but I'm going to give a general synopsis of what's been going on from the little bit of knowledge I have on it. But even in context of what I'm saying, tell me what you feel about it. Basically, it's a miracle field for handicapped, disability children or youth or anybody possibly that wants to be on the playground. But I guess they have some stuff that they can use. Mm-hmm. They're going to put a certain amount of money in it. It's going to be basically the place will be kind of revitalized and very brand new equipment. And it's also said that it's to be used by children with disabilities and those without. But it will change the ball field's look You will not be able to play softball. Women can't go and play softball down there because it's going to be a different type of turf. It's not going to be dirt and things like that. But in a sense, what you talked about that you experienced when you said that the North End Field was a collecting spot.
Yes, absolutely.
You said that in the 60s for you.
50s, as a kid, I grew up as
in the 50s?
Child of the 50s and a teenager, adolescent in the 60s.
Okay. And it was also that in the 70s?
Yes.
It was that in the 80s?
Yes.
It was that in the 90s?
Yes.
It was that... It
started its decline,
in the 2000s.
Late 90s, 2000s.
Okay. But there was other things. The North-South game was played out there.
Right.
I don't know when that started. You might remember maybe
I don't
the 70s.
Even remember. Yeah, at least in the 70s. No, I would say
early 70s, mid 70s.
Yeah, early mid 70s primarily.
Because I seen them as a kid, and in '79 I was 13, so I seen them before '79.
But I'll take that back. It wasn't as big a deal, but it kind of got its start somewhere in the late 60s.
Okay,
and then it grew to what you saw.
Yes.
In the 70s.
And basically, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, some of you will remember, some of you may not know, some of you younger ones. The North-South game used to be a game from guys that he's going to be talking about to guys that we talked about on the Big Red all-time team. But if you was an athlete, you were figured out how good the athletes were. One of the measurements was the North-South game. It was all the South End guys and the North End guys would come to the North End field and they played tackle football.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things early on, it was tackle. It became flag when the guys got a little softer, you guys would say.
Well, older too. You guys realized especially the participants got older.
The participants got older, but the greatest thing that I loved about that game was some of the things you hear. You've heard this before in the black community. Man, if that guy would have played, he'd have been an all-star. Mm-hmm. If this guy would have did that. Some of those guys played in that game.
Yes.
They may not have played. So some of it was their chance to show that, Steve was on the field.
Yeah.
And he's talking about he was one of the best blockers ever. He went to college. But if I'd had a chance, I blocked him in the North-South game.
Yeah.
Stuff like that was said. So my point is that there's so much history in that.
Yeah. Not
only the game itself, but what was going on around those games.
Oh, people were just partying and, there's normal socialization that we do.
Yes.
If you might have went from a crap game to people listening to music and in their cars.
Later on, DJs would set up out there.
Yes, and one of the things to get to my introduction, the younger generation they really don't realize the look and what North End Field and the ball field, that section from Franklin to the field, people lived.
Yes.
In that where the playground is.
Yes.
There was homes and stuff. You could literally ride through the ball field by the road that went from 7th Street and come around, and you'd end up on Franklin by the tracks.
Right. And so the reason I wanted to say that and stop you was because at different times that I've had these discussions with some of the gentlemen that are older and some of the guys that are my age that I talk with, these things matter if we understand what they are. Because when somebody wants to take our history away from us, if you don't have an understanding of that history, you won't fight to keep it.
Well, part of the reason that I think they think it's doable, again, it's context.
Yes.
The neighborhoods and the families are gone now. 7th Street, 6th Street, Sherman, 8th Street, Highland.
Yes.
You had families living with children.
So let me ask you this.
Now you don't have that.
Okay, and that's a great point. You're right. Part of the reason why things end up happening there that are different.
They got rid of us so they can do what they do.
To some extent.
And in a real...
I understand what you're saying. But let's not even go there yet. Let's just go to the point of, let's say it's a fact that the field isn't used like it used to be.
Absolutely.
Let's say for a fact that the numbers aren't what they used to be in the North End area.
Yeah.
That some of the historic families and iconic families of the participants of the people who was on that field are not there. Let's take that as a fact. This is my only thing is that wouldn't it be great if we could find a way to unite our community and do some things for our youth and use that as a central focus?
Yeah, it shouldn't be restrictive.
Right.
It should be open as a community park.
Right.
Not special needs. Those special needs are very important now.
Yeah, for sure.
But not limited to just special needs.
And again, where I want to try to get to figure out is I'm asking the question if there's enough substance in it to say this should be a pillar. What I mean is saying is that if what you said went on with the North-South game and the Biggio girls and all the things that the North End field represented when it was used, what was that a positive for the community?
I feel so. If you grew up in that era, you develop the socialization skills that are lacking now. Like now, it's through electronics and the internet. But you congregated, you met, you talked, you had face-to-face interaction.
Word spreading about different
events. You knew who would win the dance, and quiet as kept. You got a chance to show off your new threads on Saturdays and Sundays after church.
So my point is a lot of positivity. So what I'm trying to say is that if we had that again there, it could be positive. It may not operate the same exact way.
Right.
So my point is, if we were ever to get together and want to do things for our youth and make it an area, or not just the youth, older folks, and make it an area of congregation and doing some good positive things.
Yeah.
If it's not there anymore, we can't do that.
Right.
So I wanted to say that because you parked in that area. So that's going to be something that we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about with some other people. But I wanted to put that in my mind, and you talk about it. That when I talk about it at a later point.
Schools out in the summertime, were young men. I know my group of guys, because back then, young black men played baseball.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't up but 3 or 4 of us. Yes. Just like you could play basketball with 3-on-3.
Yes.
You didn't need a full squad and run full court.
Exactly.
So you did the same thing with baseball. Fall times, you played football in the outfield.
Right.
After school. I understand. Those type of things like that, which I know, you don't see that regardless of what's available.
That's going to be another subject that comes up later on. I know they're supposed to have some public hearings on that.
Okay.
And so I'm sure I might end up seeing you at one of them.
Okay.
But I want to participate this time on it because I do want to stress that there'll be some people down there who's saying that it should be. There's going to be some people saying it should be. But my thing is that the culture of that area, the history of that area, deserves
and realistically thinking and looking at, like you say, in context, we didn't have the options that are that have developed to this in this 21st century.
Yeah,
and it was integral part of being an African American to integrate sports and guys play checkers.
Right.
Things like all that went on, and the kids on the swings and the seesaw. That was Americana post World War II, so to speak.
Right. And again,
in a black community.
And it's not something that needs to necessarily be proven. It should be said. That field was used for a whole lot of things. The community was a gathering place for the community.
Right.
A lot of positive a lot of positive memories and all kind of things came out of it. It needs to continue that. And we've lamented that fact.
It's been abandoned, actually.
And again, the black community has said some of the harshest things about it because of how bad it had gotten. Meaning, you have people just drinking and drugs and stuff and hanging out. There's not a lot of money put into it. We don't take care of it as a community, so to speak. There's no programs anymore. Nobody is.
No one, but the underlying reason why, because the neighborhoods and the quality people that lived in households, positive people in households declined. And if there was more, and we all know, we say it all the time, there's no place for black adults to go and congregate. And what I mean, there at that time, because there were that time when I grew up, there was bars all over the North End.
I understand.
You know, and they wasn't always black people in those bars
Right,
when I was
right.
coming up.
Exactly.
There was 2 Max Snacks,
Okay.
Orlando's on 7th Street,
Okay.
and even one, you have to be my age or older to remember,
Okay.
there was a bar on the corner of Franklin and Sherman Avenue.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes.
So that Sherman and Franklin.
Across from where Peterson's was.
Peterson's, that's what I was going to say.
And it wasn't Peterson's yet. It was
Oh,
still,
okay.
it was called Pete's.
Okay.
Because Pete and Millie,
Mhm.
2 white people owned it.
Okay.
And I knew that, and come to find out, their son and I worked together because
Okay.
Millie was called either Millie's or Pete's, depending on,
Okay.
and they owned it.
Okay. Good deal. So
Yeah.
so we're at let's take you at 11, 12 years old.
Okay.
You went to junior high where?
Grant school.
So you went to Grant School. How did you get to Grant School?
Walk. and to put some history in, Garfield School at my time only went to the 4th grade.
Right.
Where the American Legion is now, post
Okay.
433. That's where
Garfield was. Okay, on 5th Street. North
Right,
5th.
right. I bused in the 5th grade. Yeah, we got school bus.
Okay.
If you chose to.
Okay.
And 6th grade generally walked 6, 7, and 8. Only time you might
Mhm.
get a bus, you caught the city bus
Right.
when it was extremely cold or the weather was bad.
Okay.
But we walked
So
from North
did
End
you ever catch the city bus?
every now and then when the
Okay,
weather was
so
up.
how do you catch the city bus? You would say, "Hey, Mom, it's cold out. Can I get some money to ride the
Yeah,
bus?"
or they, or you could buy bus tickets back then,
Okay.
school bus
And
tickets.
how did that work? I mean, tell me about it.
You
I've
know-
never heard that before.
You never heard about bus tickets?
No.
I used to catch a bus to Weirton to clean my grandfather's barber shop.
Okay.
You
so,
bought them at the bus, I forget, 5, maybe 6 for $1. I don't even remember the
okay.
price.
Who would buy them? Your mom, your dad?
Yeah,
you?
or you give you money, you buy your own. We used to give you, we weren't sheltered then. You walked everywhere, or in the summer rode your bike.
So this would be around 19.
I was 11 in 1960.
Okay, so in the 1960s, going to school, if you were going to go into middle school, you would walk to Grant, or you would catch the regular school bus,
Yeah.
or if it was real cold, you said the city
Well,
bus.
but at that time, we just didn't care. They didn't provide the city bus in junior high.
Okay.
The school bus.
Okay.
That was, because in 59, I was 10 years old, in 5th grade, they provided a school bus.
Okay.
But by the time you were in junior high, you didn't get the school bus. 7th and 8th grade.
So 7th, 8th grade. So what you're saying is for 5th and 6th grade,
Yes.
going there, they provided for. When you got older, you walked.
We walked the Big Red.
So then, if it was cold, you would catch the city bus.
Yeah.
Okay.
It had to be, and it wasn't too many times
That you
that
didn't.
we caught the bus.
Now, and was that because it wasn't that many times it was cold, or you didn't have that many tickets, or?
No, they always had bus. You get bus tickets anytime.
Well, let me just say this again. When I talked to Mr. Rita, I asked him about going to the movies. He said we ain't no money to get in the movies.
Right.
Then I talked to Mr. Hicks. Also talked to Mr.
They lived
Mr.
on the
Sarah.
South End now.
Well, what I'm getting ready to
I'm
say
talking
is-
North
I
End.
understand, but I talked to them guys, and they were telling me how they used to sneak into the big ray games. But they didn't
Yeah.
have no money to go to the big ray
Yeah.
games. So what I'm asking you is, did your family, were you just a little better off that you did have the money?
I didn't think I was better off than any of the kids on Sherman, because we used to all
Right.
take, I remember Mr. Reed Tony was saying, you hustled, you could
Make money.
deposit pop bottle, 2 cents on a bottle,
Okay.
and big ones, I think you got a nickel.
Right.
That's what you did. We took stuff to the junkyard. There was a junkyard on 7th Street.
Because you know how you guys are. You act like we were too soft. We couldn't live back in them days. So I'm trying to find out what was so hard about it.
It was, I hear guys say, but it was different. Like those who never walked anywhere and everywhere. If you was on the North End,
Right.
you wanted to go swimming,
Right.
you had to walk to the CRC.
Okay.
There wasn't no buses or anybody. Wasn't no,
Yeah.
Dad, I want to go swimming.
You just walked up.
You walked.
And even in my day. it was similar to that.
Yeah, yeah.
If you were now there were some kids who got to ride here, ride there, and you knew them, and you you said they were ugly, but
that wasn't. It was very few. If they had it, it was generally one car in a household. Period. Okay. If that.
So let me ask you this. But they talked about sneaking into the cemetery.
Yeah, that was
Did
a
you
lot
do
of
that?
No.
Because you didn't go to the games, or
no,
I
was able to have at least
you were rich.
50 cents.
So you were rich.
Well,
yeah, you was rich.
Black rich, I guess you
That's
call
what I
it.
meant. That's what I meant.
Well, I was, and it was because family worked. You know, they weren't unemployed. And
I don't mean that as negative.
I know what you mean. Yeah,
I'm just saying that
I could get at least 50 cents to $1 to
right.
go to the football game.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you go?
Not regular, but yes, I had a neighbor's mother would walk us up Franklin, cut across Brady, and walk to Harding Stadium.
Okay, and then watch some games.
Yeah.
Okay, and so so at a young age, you've seen Big Red, you've seen some of these guys play.
Yeah.
Let's say, but while you were in middle school and elementary, or any time before you became a freshman, out of the games you've seen, who caught your eye as a young kid?
Well, the biggest names that I remember, one of them, obviously, if you ain't ever, Leon Lindsay.
Okay.
Leon went to Ohio State.
Yes, I heard that. Okay.
Okay, he was one of the biggest names to go to, out of Big Red. But they'll pride, Mr. Rufus Simmons.
Okay. Rufus Simmons?
Yes.
Now, you're a young kid. What position did Lindsay play?
He was a running back, halfback back then.
What about Rufus?
Rufus was a guard linebacker.
Rufus Simmons?
Simmons, yes.
Okay, so he must have been a hitter.
Oh, he was notorious. On and off the field.
Is that? Okay. And so these would have been in like 60, 61, 59.
Big John Anderson.
John Anderson, and he was a
lineman. These were guys that were Wally Neal.
Now let me ask you, those first three guys, when you look at them, and what I'm trying to do, you guys, when you hear me talking, is we also going to do a segment on as I said, we're going to do a segment on the pre-modern era Big Red players. It was very hard choosing these guys. But we were talking about 40 years. Talking about 40 years, and there's still guys I left out that I'm thinking, man, I can't believe I didn't mention that person because they stood out in whatever way. Like I didn't even say anything about Johnny Agresta, and I thought about it when I talked about the Tigers. When you put things in context in a year, out of all the great players that played on the last championship team we had, he was the leader. He was the one they all depended on, especially from the beginning of the year. And so he might have had a little bit better stats his year before, but he didn't have the stats that he might have had touchdowns or anything like that. But he was the physical enforcer on defense. He was the captain. But he was always a good athlete, but I never even thought about him somehow. I forgot about him. Anthony Jackson. I remember Anthony Jackson was always kind of slight in stature, but he was always tough ball player. Yeah. All through his going up to
historically, we've had that. You could go back to your dad's Big Red years.
Okay.
It was always a handful of those guys on every Big Red team.
And it'll be easier for you. It'll be easier for me.
Always.
It'll be easier for me to do the pre-modern era because some of those legends and heroes or ballers or athletes have left us. Some of them are no longer living here.
My age group, that's what I'm saying. There's nobody here. They don't live here or they passed away. And very few are walking the earth.
Right. And so what that means is that if you would make your all-time team, you're not going to get as much feedback as somebody saying.
Right.
And that's what happened to me.
There was men in the 50s that I wouldn't dare try to say they wasn't this and wasn't that.
Exactly. And I found that out by doing it. But so because of that, what I'm trying to do is just get in your eyesight as a young kid. What made these guys stick out to you? Was it because...
Well, they were the ones that generally, when you're young, and back then, you didn't sit, at least I don't know, we always was around the fence. On the fence. Because back then, when the game was over,
you got on the field.
Yeah. And jeopardized getting towed up.
Okay. So some of these guys that you just mentioned are guys you heard of, necessarily.
But some I knew better.
Who's some of them that you seen? Who did you see running balls in the end zone? You said, man, you see
there was me and my Renard Horston, we talk about, especially the ones that grew up on the South End that I know. There was a running back named Bobby Johnson.
Okay.
His nickname was Gunyon.
Bobby
Little dude,
Johnson.
but I remember him running this kickoff back.
And his name was what?
Bobby Johnson.
No, but he said his nickname
Oh,
was...
Gunyon. That's what his nickname from the, that's what,
Gunyon.
Gunyon. There was a lot of tough guys. Larry Terry, Raymond's older brother.
Okay, Larry Terry.
Larry Terry.
Okay, and these are guys you've seen.
Seen them.
So you would see them. Okay,
okay. That's they were the stars, and I didn't. Back then I didn't know some of the linemen or anything. Not too many. That. But the guys that played with my cousin Harry, Ron Massafero.
Massafero.
Big Ron was known.
Now let me ask you this.
He lives in. He passed away. He lived after he got out. So he lived in Mingo after.
Okay. Well, I think there's a Ron Massafero that lives out in Wintersville.
Might be a son or some relationship.
Okay.
But yeah, Maz was one of the top linemen on that team.
I've heard it.
He wasn't no joke. No, he wasn't no joke.
Yeah, you're the first person to mention.
Wrestler too.
Okay.
Yeah.
But his name was Ron.
Ron, yeah.
Massafero. Okay, he graduated in, do you remember?
63 with Harry and Raymond and the team that beat Massillon.
Okay.
Lost to Toledo Central.
Talk about, did you remember seeing Mr. Terry, Raymond Terry?
Yeah.
Okay, what was his game?
He was typical, again, 3-back.
Right,
full house backfield.
Yeah.
That's what we ran. There was always a fullback. Jim Brown was a fullback, not a halfback.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I remember in the 70s, for the NFL, the fullback was the premier back.
Yeah.
Your Banazaks, your Zonkas.
Yeah.
Your
Riggins.
Van Egan, Riggins.
Yes.
Fullback was a premier back.
At any rate, but yeah, you had, Raymond was the other halfback. And I think Bill Wyman was their fullback.
Right. Okay.
I think it was Bill or Bob Wyman.
Okay.
Was the fullback.
Okay. So you've seen them play.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was his game? Fast, speed.
Yeah. He was little. Raymond wasn't, but if he was 165.
Okay.
Them guys were big. We was all. That size thing that everybody so hung up on.
Right.
Big Red never could match man for man in the All-American Conference in that
size-wise. Right. So they was even, and that's still to this day. When Big Red plays the bigger teams, it's always teams are bigger than us. And so that's something that's always
truly not appreciated, I feel, from that era. With all this divisions we have now, and guys not seeing. Or they seeing only, you guys
are always big school.
Yeah, Big Red was always big school.
Yes, which we would call D1, D2 now.
Yeah. That's, and we always, you want to be the best, you play the best.
You play the best, right.
Simple as that.
Okay, and what's interesting is, I can stand corrected because I'm not going to say I know, but I've seen yearbooks at times.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen my father's yearbook.
Okay.
And people have talked about it. And I remember the 70s when I went. I believe it was in the 70s, probably middle 70s or early 70s, that Big Red got out of the All-American Conference.
Well, it dissolved.
Or that it dissolved.
It dissolved, and part of it had to do, the playoff system developed in 73, I think.
Okay.
So, and it kind of like changed things.
And divisions probably.
Yeah, regions came to play and all that.
And the reason I say that is that I always.
And by then, I wasn't really watching and paying attention to Big Red and the Ohio Valley football.
Right, well, you went off to college.
Yeah, and when I came back, I just didn't get back into it.
Because I always considered the football team, Big Red's, to me, tradition of being good was basketball. Because when I was little, we would go. I enjoyed more going to St. John Arena watching basketball games, and they were always successful.
Yeah,
every time you left out, there was a Big Red win. It was a Big Red win. When I would go to the games, like you said, there was more.
Those early 70 teams had some quality. They had some real good teams then.
You mean basketball?
Basketball,
yes. And you would always hear about, because you got to realize '84 was the first state championship game on the field. But you would hear about Mr. Ross back when they went to the state championship game.
Yes.
And you would hear about how great those team was. And then my dad was a very good basketball player. And I would hear how he was an All-American as a sophomore, and they had Big Bill Rawlich. They talked about these guys.
Yeah, there was.
And they would talk about how far
And
they
again,
would
that
go.
was you only had 3 divisions
In basketball.
In basketball.
And then I hear that from him, or not really from him. He didn't talk about a lot. People would tell me when I was in school how good my dad was in basketball. And then my cousin Milton played, and he was supposed to be good. But my point was, when I finally got into school, then I would hear about these teams, maybe Mr. Rapella's team.
Kurt Fields.
And he ended up going to Ohio State.
Clarence Bennett.
Yeah, and how good they were. Well, fast forward to 78.
Teddy Freeman and them guys.
Fast forward to 78, 79, 77, when I was a kid going to the arena. You had Jeff Gilliam.
Yeah.
Purdue.
Right.
Bradley Young.
Right.
And they were blowing teams out of the arena. We would go watch them. And
well, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What do you think happened to Big Red basketball? That no longer exists.
One opinion, understandably, kind of single-focused opinion, and from what I experienced, the football team took over. Football became big. Basketball became neglected. And because Big Red became good in football, you were pushed to play football instead of playing basketball year-round. We just had a talk with Michael Jett. He talked about his team was one of the very few teams and one of the last teams where the whole team played basketball except only one. The rest of nobody played football. Chucky Hyten was the only one that played football on that team, and they went pretty far. And after that, as football became bigger,
that is one of the primary reasons to focus, and not only on basketball suffered.
Track.
My years in high school, track was Big Red track was state recognized.
Is that right?
Oh, we wasn't no joke. At least my varsity years.
One thing, I don't know if you've seen us talk. I had made a statement, and this is just off the. You can just tell me. I know I'm
went
wrong.
To Cincinnati.
I think I'm wrong.
Track meets.
I think I'm wrong. Slick Williams, first black quarterback for Big Red.
I think so. Yeah, I think Gary was.
Okay. Now, I may be wrong, but somebody told me this. But it's a trivia question that I might be able to win sooner or later.
Gary, I believe he was, because we didn't have any through the 60s that I can remember.
Well, hold on.
All right.
What position did Keith Burke play?
He was halfback / quarterback.
Okay.
He wasn't. Corsi was the quarterback. EF or Keith would. They had specialization plays and stuff
that he would play. Okay.
Yes.
So he wasn't the starter on opening day.
Keith was the behind me.
Okay. So he wasn't the starter on opening day at quarterback.
No.
Position.
No.
Okay.
No.
Slick was.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and I remember that.
Yeah. Keith was, and he was a backup quarterback on my senior year team.
So let me ask you this: as far as you know, and the brief period of you went before
you didn't have the Lamar Jackson type guy.
Well, I'm just going to say, was EF the first guy to do that?
For Big Red, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in theory, to actually play the position, he may have been the first to actually get a chance to play the position in a game. But Slick was the full-time,
he was right
starting QB.
Exactly.
He listed in the program as quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay. Good deal.
He didn't do a whole lot of quarterback play my 2 varsity years. So
okay.
He was strictly a DB.
Who? Keith.
Keith. Yeah.
Okay. But the reason his name came up, because I know he was a good track star too, correct?
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We had either the first or second best shuttle hurdle relay team in the state.
Is that right?
In the tracks, our spring of 67 and 66 and 67.
Okay.
We had a state championship runner and quarter miler. Don Osby, state long jump champ, 2 years in a row. Relay teams was in the top 5 or 10 in the state.
Now let me ask you. So basically, you're saying Big Red was known for their track teams.
Yeah, back
in the
then.
60s.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you a question. What do you think happened to the track team? The track presence.
we lost first of all, you lost a coach that he brought track. He was hired as a football coach slash Bob Indres was his name.
Okay.
He was from Cincinnati area.
Mm-hmm.
His son came and was the quarterback when I was a sophomore. His son became the quarterback.
Okay.
But he had a good track background.
Mm-hmm.
He knew track. And he got all of it. I mean, Dwight Sims, pole vault, ran hurdles. That's what I said. We had
Did Mike Palmer run track?
Mike ran until his senior year.
Okay.
Robert Booth.
Yeah.
The sprinter, our sprinters.
Okay.
But we had quality 200, 400. Jerry Marshall, Craig Underwood, Keith Burke, Randy Burton. That was our shuttle team.
You don't go to the
We went to
You don't go to the Big Red basketball games, do you?
not much.
Okay.
Not
Recently, they've established some type of a trophy case or honoring some of the players from Big Red's past. I don't know if I remember seeing any pictures or if any of them state champions were recognized.
No, I don't think like I said, I don't know how much existed when this new modern these accolades, and like I said, only us that was there that saw those tracks. And I'm telling you, I saw us at Bel Air against Warren Harding and Steubenville Big Red had the top 2 shuttle hurdle relay teams in the state of Ohio. Big school.
Yeah.
We had, like I said, we had state long jumper.
Right.
We had a couple quarter milers. One of my classmates was one of the best top 3 in the state.
That's funny when you say you talk about running the 400.
Yeah.
That's funny. They call it quarter miler back then.
Yeah. 400. Yeah. And we had quality field events. Well, I'll say that I didn't get past the districts. I was just a shot putter.
You do shot.
Yeah. And there was, but we had a nice balanced squad.
So when I ask you, what do you say to coach?
I think the coach, and then the emphasis, it just faded away.
Okay.
Because there was, earlier you guys was talking about Buster Tillman and them. Well, it was suggested, but Buster, I don't know why, like you said, Buster needed to run track. College coaches said this.
Yeah.
People doing, guys, a lot of the receivers and running backs should run track.
Okay.
It develops their running motion, learning to get out of the block, start and stop, and back then we did have football players running track.
And all the guys now that used to run track say that about the kids running now. Why don't he run track?
I believe in that and wrestling for those who didn't play basketball.
I agree. So let's get in this a little bit more with the back then the guys 60s you had the track, you had the football.
We were
give me once you start playing.
Okay.
Up to 1979. I know that you said once you went away to college, you didn't watch much 70s.
Yeah.
So prior to your graduation, first from what you've seen and played with, and I was going to do a pre-modern era all-time great team. Give me some players you think that should at least be on the list.
Basketball?
No, football.
Oh, football.
Yes.
Well, everybody know about Papoose, Walter King.
So Walter King.
Yes, everybody. Solomon, of course. These guys were younger than me. Too. Yeah.
Daryl, what year was these guys?
I can't remember what year. Okay. This is early 70s.
So you didn't see these guys?
I didn't see them, but I know.
Guys you didn't see?
Oh, okay. Byrie Jones.
When you were
Byrie Jones.
Byrie?
B-Y-R-I-E.
Byrie Jones.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Keith Monroe.
He was a
guard.
He was an offensive lineman.
Offensive and defensive linebacker.
Jones was too?
Byrie was a tackle.
Okay.
These are linemen. These were guys I played with in high school and college.
Okay.
I gave you Dwight Sims and Osby.
Sims, Osby,
Mike Palmer, of course.
Palmer,
Bob Sims.
Bob Sims.
Yes.
Robert Sims.
Robert Sims. And Roger Sims.
And Roger. There was like 4 or 5 of them Sims. Wasn't
Yeah,
there?
well, Roger's the oldest, and they came, and Bob came after Roger.
Uni or something?
That's Uni. Bob is Uni.
Bob is Uni.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. He went to University of Iowa.
Okay. Lineman?
Running back, fullback, running back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Running
Roger
back?
was
What was Roger?
in linebacker.
Defensive end?
Yeah, all flights end. You played both ways back in them days,
Okay.
man.
Was it D end though?
Yeah, DN and offensive end, tight end. You would call it the tight end.
Okay. Palmer running back, Osby running back,
Yeah.
Sims running back. That was the White.
Yeah, that was the White. The White was a end.
Okay.
Offense
he was
and
an
defense. Yeah, he was offense
Okay.
and defense.
Okay.
And kicker.
And kicker, I heard that.
Yeah, he was kicker.
Heard he never came off the field, basically.
No, he didn't come off the field.
Okay,
No.
Okay.
Let me think of a couple. Well, of course, Harry and Raymond, Mazzaferro, those names there I actually saw. They were Herbie and Herb Lindsey.
Herb Lindsey.
He he went to Wyoming.
Okay. Good deal. Now let me say this. We're going to get a chance. When we actually do this, I may ask you to sit in. I don't know. Mr. Horston said he would do it.
Okay.
So maybe it might be you and him.
Yeah, well, no, like I said, because he definitely knows those guys from 67 on up, because I graduated in 67.
Well, I'm talking with a lot
between
of them.
67
And the goal was for me to get
pre
at least 10 guys.
Pre-playoff. That's the way I was thinking. You got to go.
Try to get 10 guys from each position that paid in 79 all the way back. And then I'm going to have, if you will do it.
Yeah, as long as I'm able.
It's going to be you and Mr. Horston.
Okay.
Myself and Michael Jett.
All right.
We're going to do
I have to think of somebody that's available. Like, I can go back. They were older. There's Bernie Lewis, my brother-in-law, Royal's uncle Sonny.
Yes, somebody told me to give him a call.
Yeah, his uncle Sonny.
But Mr. Sonny scares me. He's a big man. I know he's older now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I start to say something to him, he gets foolish.
No, but and reason I'm saying that, these were, like I was saying, Levi did when they went to college, they were going to HBCUs.
Okay.
That's where they all went. Mr. Pappy Ray.
Yes, I heard about him.
Mr. Nick Barnes.
Okay.
These are all guys who went to HBCUs, man. That, people around here we didn't know nothing about.
Right.
Or even tell you, it was all Kent State, Ohio State. That's all you hear. And they all played in college.
Mr. Williams, what year did he?
61.
61, okay. So Mr. Ray and Mr.
And they all were
around
that time, between 60 and 62.
Okay.
Somewhere in that era.
I got a lot of these names Mr. Horston gave me.
Yeah,
So
okay,
I bet. And what I'm allowed him to do is amass the list.
Yeah, all right.
And so then once I get the list, we're going to sit down, and you and Mr. Horston is going to figure out,
especially off the top of our heads.
QBs.
Just like you said, I can't believe I've left so and so.
Yeah, that's fine. You guys got to get Brown beat too.
Yeah.
So some of them guys find out who you guys pick.
Well, hopefully,
enough about the list. They give you a call.
I would like to hope this reaches out to that will, get some other guys. Like I say, I know my experience in the North End and growing up, and like I said, when Tony Rito said some of that stuff overlapped,
right?
Like he did, and thought about the laundromat, the 631 cigar store there,
Yeah.
and things, in the people, because one of the best interviews you're gonna have,
right,
if you get Skip Patterson.
I talked to his daughter.
I know, I saw her.
Yeah,
comment.
she called me, And if he would be willing to do it, I'd definitely say. Matter of fact, what's funny is, like I said, one of the reasons I'm doing this, I'm sure a lot of people who have seen this have called. Let me tell you something. I almost feel like a star. You don't know how many people have called me watching these interviews.
Good. That's good.
The reason I'm saying that is because you don't realize how much we don't know.
I understand that.
For instance, I told you before we started.
I wish I had somebody to go to. I can't fill in the whole. There's put down Ernest Robinson, one of the best in the '60s, and he did put my cousin Bubba, Ernest Robinson. They call him Uncle Bubba now.
Oh, down at Mount Zion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Bubba was a track star. One of the best.
What did he play in football?
He didn't play any football.
Oh,
he was
strictly that down for
track.
Okay.
Strictly track.
What did he run?
100, 200 relays. Yeah, Bubba was the top sprinter in the state.
What year?
63, 4, and 5.
Okay. Well, even though he only ran track, he probably still watched the football team and knows some football.
Oh yeah, you know, I know you already got Bobby Baker's name, don't you? As a basketball player.
Well, I'm only doing football.
Okay, all right.
Now, it's not that I won't ever.
I understand that. Okay,
but what's funny is, right before me and you started talking, my cousin Milton called me. He called me also.
Milton was one of the older guys from the North End.
Yes.
Used to watch them playing ball at the ball.
So I'm going to do a basketball one. We want to do a track and all that.
Yeah.
But my point is, and I think what I should start doing is doing pre-modern era first. Like you said, some of these guys, you never know when.
Yeah, because especially in football, once the playoff system started, and through the mid '70s, Big Red stunk. Yeah. Basically.
That's what I was getting ready to tell you, is that it was always basketball for me.
Yeah, I understand.
So when you ask me that question about what do I think happened to the basketball, real life story, and I'm sure he might see one of these interviews, and if we ever got a chance to talk, he would tell you exactly how it went down. But we won the state championship in '84, the very first time Big Red ever won.
I'm aware. I was there.
I didn't play football. In my opinion, the best basketball player ever at Big Red was Troy Smith. I'm partial because I played with him, but he's also the all-time leading scorer at Big Red ball player.
He'd have to be on your Mount Rushmore
for sure, no doubt. Along with Pruitt, along with Styles, and some others that I've heard. But anyway, that year, I was on the bench my junior year. We had a couple 2 guards that played, and they were a heck of defensive players. It was Johnny Johnson and Mike Mayo.
I remember Mike a little bit.
Yeah, Mike Mayo couldn't break the starting lineup with those guys, and and I wasn't. I was
DB, wasn't he?
Yeah, DB and running back.
Yeah.
But anyway, make a long story short, we won. We're doing basketball while football season's going on. We got camp and stuff like that after school, putting in time. Well, they win the state.
Real programs.
About three or four football players
come on,
and we knew they were going to come. We only thought 2 was going to come, and there was only 1 that really could play. And that 1 we expected him to come. Well, what happened is, we won the state championship. We ain't got to come right away. Now, first of all, there's no protocol for this. Big Red never won the state.
Yeah.
So Smitty, he's the number 1 guy. He's been playing since sophomore. He's the best on the team, no doubt. He ready to go, and he ain't waiting on nobody. And you ain't gonna take his shine. So I remember Todd ended up coming late. Him and a couple other guys come. And as soon as they come, Mr. Walk want to plug them into the lineup. Now Todd deservedly could play.
Talking about Todd Gillen?
Todd Kelly.
Oh, okay.
Todd Kelly could play. Yeah. A good athlete. Yeah. He could play. So I could see where he would probably get a starting nod. Now me, I'm scrambling, I'm hustling. Jason's hustling. Mr. Walk was all about man-to-man defense. Yeah. So you can get a position that way. We got some guys. Roy wasn't playing in, but anyway, to make a long story short, they didn't want to hustle. We do the line drills. Todd was one of the fastest guys on the team. He coming in 5th, 6th, 7th. Smitty screaming at him. Smitty didn't play. This is my team. You had your team. I don't know what you did with the rest of your guys, but I'm sure there wasn't no loafing.
Yeah.
The season started. They put a guy in front of me that I didn't think should be there. Well, his dad was on the school board. You know what I mean? So you knew what was happening. Plus, they just won the state. So you got to. But my point was there was a little sour taste. Basically, to the point where Troy
messed up the chemistry.
Told him, you don't want to hustle. Get out of here. I'm a state champ. I don't know if you know I am. You're 18, I'm 18. We getting our man vibes. There's going to be an altercation. Before the altercation started, I ain't going to rest around. I don't care about this that much. I'm a state champion. Like, that vibe was there. So he leaves the team. I say that to say, for me, basketball was always number one. And after that, football took off. So when people ask me what happened with the basketball team, because that year we went all the way to the regional finals.
And to a certain extent, I think the game started to get past what they were traditionally how Chuck Watt and he was good for defense,
exactly,
and getting kids in shape, but the actual game started to modernize.
And if you remember, 2-3 years before that, and during that time, that was the time of the best coach to me that's ever been in the Ohio Valley for basketball.
Mel
Coleman.
Yes.
He was at Wintersville.
Yes.
They had just beat Big Red.
Yeah.
And they had went far.
Right.
They ended up, I think we split with them or we beat them twice, but they were close when I was a senior. And so Mr. Watt was going to get out coached. Yeah. So it wasn't just our athleticism in order to win.
His methods had,
started to
live their life.
Live their life, exactly. So now you got to transition at coach. You're not ready for it because it's all about football now. So like you said with the track, they lost the coach they had.
And
the basketball
football started to just suck the air out of basketball. And
let me tell you this. I'm going to say this because I believe this, and a lot of people.
And we ran off more good quality basketball players than
coaches. Because my point is, I heard this about the football team, and I had heard it before, but I say it about basketball. We lost one of the best coaches, could have been in the Ohio Valley, in Mr. Tommy Mitchell, Coach Tom. He could have been the football coach, head football coach, or he could have been the head basketball coach for years. And I think that basketball team definitely would have stayed.
And what became needed as the 80s went into the 90s, the kids started, they wasn't the same as us. And they needed, they watch TV, they see what's happening on the college level and what's happening.
And even though Mr. Mitch would have still been somewhat old school, he had the respect of all the kids. And they would have still listened. And as the time changed, he would have had the ability to possibly change. But what he would have probably did was bring some guys onto his staff.
Yeah, you needed
that
to
was
have
a little younger that would have been able to.
Basketball coaches.
And so again, we could talk about this also.
That's
another thing. But my point
is, it truly hurts my heart because I truly can't understand why we couldn't have been like Wheeling Park was year in and year out in the OVAC, at least.
Exactly right.
I just could. I can't figure. It hurts.
Let me say this. We could.
That's my personal.
We could figure it out. We could unpack it.
Yeah. But I knew,
But what it starts to lead to is you have to realize, and I say this because this whole station this whole YouTube channel is about the Black experience in America.
Yeah.
And part of what we would be missing is that Black coach. In the process and in the system that had the credibility and had the authority.
It'll get to a element that sticks in the craw if I know my nephew Royal.
Yeah.
Where are the Black teachers and coaches in Steubenville city schools? That's how it would, materialize to a certain extent.
And that question comes out of a wholeheartedly honest, organic need for them.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a need for them, not
kids see what's happening. They see those faces on the bench next to the head coaches of these programs.
And it's an indictment to me. It's an indictment on leadership of the past not to recognize it or not to care enough about the situation to make it happen because we don't see it.
To a certain extent, and I take part blame or my generation not stressing it as adults.
I agree.
From the still living here in the community. I can't, and I know my true life story. I was somewhere else.
Well, and my only point is still even as such because I was right behind Royal. in trying to get that done.
Yeah,
I sat in many meetings with him, and the answers you get are so
weak and lame.
They're so weak, and they're so. At some point, they either become weak and lame because it's disrespectful.
That was the next word.
Or weak and lame because there's no knowledge behind it. They're not that smart.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which one it is, and I don't claim to know. My only point is that what you say.
Either way, it's not helping it. It's not helping us.
And then the part that makes it go over the top is the fact that, okay, you may not have known.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have an answer, but we're bringing you the answer.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we're asking these questions and the reason why we want it to happen is because this is the answer.
Yeah.
And so that's an indictment on you.
It goes deep into the fabric of what Tony talked about, how people really think and feel.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of superficial smile in your face.
Exactly.
You know.
But we shouldn't take it that way. We should continue to fight. We should continue to ask the next question.
Isn't this a vehicle for that?
Yes, it is. Oh, for sure.
So, I mean,
I don't know if you watched the live we did earlier today, but we got to the
I
end
watched
of it.
a good piece of
Some of it we got to the point of Brother Coach Johnson down in Wheeling.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Ryan Terry had talked on Facebook one time, and I was a part of the comments back and forth.
Uh-huh.
And they talked about the need to help some of these kids get on to college.
Yes.
And it leads to a bigger conversation that I'm going to have. We're going to have an interview with Coach Steve Terry. He wants to talk about some of our black youth and kids when they go on athletics and go to college, veer into coaching, so that they can start getting coaching jobs and get experience in offensive coordination, defensive coordination, so that they could be candidates for coaching jobs.
But see, with that comes you have to be willing to get a secondary degree in teaching of some sort generally.
But even that's not the case all the time.
Yeah, or something that qualifies you to be part of the faculty, put it like that.
Well, let me just say this.
And I know they make exceptions for that.
They make exceptions, they make the rule.
Yeah.
In other words, the Board of Education makes that rule.
Yes, that's what I mean.
So if we're talking about our school district, if you run for Board of Education and get voted on, you'll be part of that discussion. If I run and get voted on, if I really care about that's an issue, once I get on the school board that I care about, we just change it. Because what's the reason we have to have it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's this thing ain't rocket science.
It really isn't, but it takes perseverance,
time,
a little bit of time, and you can't and some understanding, knowledge, a little bit,
all that. But my point is, all we're talking about is trying to get black teachers. We're talking about trying to get black athletes into coaching. We're trying to get black coaches. I know this, but I got to ask this question.
Okay,
is your insinuation that black people don't have that?
That may be what
I'm talking about you.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No,
so,
what I'm saying,
we've
been sidetracked and distracted, and I'm speaking from my generation, my perspective.
Yes, sir.
As to what we thought was important to us.
And I agree. And so what I'm saying is, what I want this channel to do is, this is your opinion, this is my opinion. There's some of us out there that have a different opinion.
I take a certain amount of blame or responsibility or loss of responsibility.
Yes.
Since I was fortunate enough to go to college, but didn't maximize what it could do for me.
Yes.
You see? And then with some and recognizing the importance of a voice in the community then versus wait until I'm 57, 60 years old.
And I do want to say this is that, as I said about the topics we had when we talked about teachers, when I was in NAACP, I was the education chair.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously anything that had to do with education, I was vocal on. There's some people who are on the labor chair. So they're big on the jobs and stuff.
Sure.
Some people was on the judicial committee.
Mm-hmm.
So it's how our mass incarceration affects us, how the judicial system affects us. So my point is, it's not like we don't have a lot to deal with. I'm just saying that no matter which subject there's some momentum built on, the coming together, the knowledge, the willingness, and all that is it's a template for how you do the next thing.
Yeah.
Those same dedicated people, those same way you did it. What about this issue?
Yeah. And if it wasn't for one of my elders or predecessors,
which is
Councilman Coleman Mullins.
Yes.
Basically was the start of me getting involved in activity or social activity when we formed RAMP.
RAMP. What was RAMP?
Restoring African American Male Population.
Okay.
It was for us adults to try to start when we in the early 90s.
Yes.
When we start seeing youth being affected by the drug culture, the lack of, just trying to do the right thing for the right reason.
And let me just say this.
And try to help guide some, youth, from troubled home life or backgrounds.
I remember I know some guys that was in that.
Yeah.
And one thing about that's interesting and that we need to understand as we go forward, if we try to build things, is that the one thing that happens when you talk about politics, you look at the Democrats and Republicans. And one of the myths is that black people are Democrats because they're looking for handouts, and that
that's a Republican narrative.
That's a Republican narrative, a conservative narrative.
Yeah,
and that we don't take responsibility and things like that. But what's funny about it is that almost all black community organizations, whether you go all the way back to the NAACP, whether you go to the Black Panthers, whether you go to RAMP, whether you go to wasn't there a group in the Steubenville called the Black Progressives?
Progressive Blacks.
Progressive Blacks.
And that was my age group generation, my peers.
All of those organizations start with self-reflection of the urban community and building yourself up.
And what, especially the modern youth, lack of understanding our history in America. In every city, there's very few to recognize that blacks were some of the most conservative, taking care of the community, respect, because that's what we had to do.
Yes.
In segregated Jim Crow America.
Yes.
So to say it was all about responsibility. You was, at least I know. I had a friend that his mother used to say, I ain't gonna mention that, you ain't gonna be no sweetback.
Yeah.
You gonna do something.
I want to do a show one day. You ever watch Shannon Sharp?
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, my grandmama told me this.
My grandma and granddaddy told me, because the same thing I can think about what your grandma told you.
And that's what those, because just that narrative came as a counterpunch to civil rights movement.
Yes.
Now I know we in sports, but this is part of what happened during my adolescence, and things started to change in America and with young blacks, because the March on Washington. I wish I watched it, but I was 8th grade or 9th grade. 63, my freshman year.
Okay.
And things like that changed in post-Vietnam. The war changed black communities.
Okay.
Had a lot of, or one of the elements that led.
Yeah, one is a lot of black men died.
Yes.
Another thing was I've heard that there was a lot more. That was the introduction to drugs being such a
mass introduction. It was always there, but it was in such small. It wasn't dominant.
It was more destructive after the Vietnam War.
Right.
Families and communities.
Absolutely.
And so, Mr. Wilson, we're going to stop there. And
I'm getting ready to go somewhere.
Good deal. That's fine.
In an hour, but
and I just I know I'm going to be talking with you a lot more because you have so much insight, and whatever topic we get in, I always respect.
Yeah, the '60s. I kind of like, especially like I always say this: what I left Steubenville, colored Negro.
Yes.
And got black in college.
Okay. That's going to be, the next time me and you sit down, that's going to be the topic.
All right.
How do you go from Negro to black?
It would,
And you're saying education?
No, this was the
experience.
The experience of growing up in the mid and late 60s in America.
Good deal. Well, you guys heard it. That'll be a topic the next time we talk with Mr. Wilson here. I want to thank him here on Peace, Knowledge, and Wisdom. One thing I did not do that I want to do now is, guys, help me out here. Please hit that subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button so that you can be a part of this channel. The next thing is hit that bell. When you hit the bell, a drop-down box is going to come, and you hit all. And anytime I upload a video, it will be notify you that, hey, there's a new video there. And then hit the like button. That always helps. And share it. Hit the share button. Share it with other friends so that everybody gets a chance to see and hear these great conversations about Steubenville.
Yeah.
I've learned so much and have so much more respect for those in front of me that I realize that these are the shoulders that we stand on. These are the people who built the roads that we drive and walk on. And I mean, as far as life's experiences.
And we've heard it over and over. If you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going.
Exactly right. And the other one that I want to say before we to get off here is, when you know better, you should do better.
Yeah.
And so we got to do better.
The opportunity to do better is there.
The opportunity. So if our lack is that we don't know better, this is part of trying to know better so that we can do better. And so while we're out with that, so I leave you with peace.